I remember the walls of this music store were Barney purple. Barney the dinosaur purple. I may be dating myself by saying that, but when I was a kid, there was a purple dinosaur on the television. Suspend your disbelief. I'm not making shit up. I don't make shit up on Romshii Radio. There was a purple dinosaur, I'm telling you. We can't expect our relationship to work if you don't trust me. There was a purple dinosaur on my television as a child, and that color purple was the same purple that this guitar store decided to paint their walls. And by the looks of it, they had painted that about 15 years before I arrived, because it was all chipped and fucked up looking. And I walked into the music store, and my virgin 17-year-old hands holding this crumpled up piece of paper as I approached the counter. And I remember this boomer, this old guy, just sitting there staring at his crossword puzzles, jaded. A jaded and failed musician. I'm projecting. But he was there, and he was working on his crossword puzzles, and as I approached him to say hello, I remember he just barely looked up at me through his glasses and through the little strands of gray hair hanging out of his ponytail. He looked up at me and saw that I was holding my resume, my resume, my meager resume with my 3 years guitar teaching experience on it, and my little long hair, my hairless face. I looked like a child. He looked at me and said, "So, do you go to school here or something? What's going on here?" And I said, "No. I just moved to this city, man. I just moved here. And I'm looking to get a job. I'm a guitar teacher. I'm a really good guitar player. I could teach guitar here. I could change people's lives. I could turn them from zeros to heroes. I could get them ready for a life of rock stardom if you would just give me a chance." I remember this old guy, he just plainly darted his eyes back down at the crosswords and said, "Leave your resume on the table, we'll keep you in mind." And I left, humiliated, embarrassed. And I went back out onto the street and I saw the cars in gridlock. The sky was gray. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the crushing loneliness of this place. I remember seeing this dirtbag guy with his leather jacket on with his arm around this dirtbag girl, and they had their dirtbag 40s in their hands, and they were waiting at a bus stop, and I was so jealous. I remember crossing crossing at the stop sign to get over to the next block, and I remember a car swerved in front of me and almost hit me. And I remember the girl in the car stopped and she looked out to make sure I was okay, and she said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I said, "That's okay, I'm fine." And my heart began to race because I was talking to a girl. These were truly dark times. I remember I had no money to take the bus. So my goal for the day was to walk to every single music store in the entire city and drop off my resumes. I remember their blank stares. I remember the way they looked right through me. I might as well have been a fucking lamppost. I was just another body in the street to them. I was just another piece of garbage on the train. I was just another curled up little burger wrapper with a little piece of burger inside of it, and that was my soul. That's what they saw me as. They didn't see me as a sweet young lad with a bright future ahead of him. I was a threat. I was a nobody. I was nothing to nobody. And this was the first time I had ever realized that. This is the first time I had ever felt that. R to the OMSHI. I can't forget that. This was the type of city where people stayed strapped. I just wanted to go back to my mom's house and take a nap, but I couldn't because I just moved for the first time. I moved away from home to the big city, and I was getting a taste of that big city hospitality. I remember back in my small town, the air was fresh, the river was flowing. R to the OM, she was always going to hang out with his friends. Yes, that's me. I had friends there. People loved me there. I had a whole community of support. They knew me. They knew I was a good guitar teacher. They knew I was a good guy. They knew I was talented. They knew I was capable. And they had the stories to back it up. But out here in the big city, I was just another long-haired idiot with a crumpled up resume in my hand walking down the street. Couldn't even afford to take the bus. I remember getting to the downtown area and seeing it get busier. I remember seeing all the bars, all the venues, all the stores full of cool things. I remember seeing the buskers. I remember seeing the groups of friends walking together and realizing none of it was open for me unless I had money, knew people. And I didn't have money, and I didn't know people. And I had no guidance. I had no one to tell me how to do any of these things. No one had ever sat me down and told me how to live a life. And I'm sure some of you out there feel that way too. No one ever sat you down and told you how it was. Because maybe they didn't think you would listen. Maybe they didn't even really know themselves. We're all just hurling through this world, learning our lessons. Well, I learned some lessons in the big city. But I got scared. And instead of pushing past all of these rejections, I let them make me scared. I let them put me back in that apartment, this little one-bedroom apartment I was sharing with my friends, with these shitty white walls where the landlord paints over the switch and paints over the outlets. And you can hear your neighbor's loud bass music. And I sat in that apartment and I smoked out of a ceramic bong with pictures of spiders on it. And I smoked weed and made little recordings on a 4-track. And I didn't try to get a job ever again after that day. I let that experience take me down. I let it destroy me. And I just sat there in this room recording music until my savings ran out and I was forced to go back home to my small town where my bedroom had been taken over. Where the space that was there for me was slowly being closed and squeezed out, and all of a sudden I had to get, forced back into this smaller space, this space that was closing behind me. And I could feel it. I could feel that it was smaller. I could feel that my time was running out. I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how to live this life. When you grow up around flowing rivers and singing birds and safe streets and a beautiful sunlit sky, where the only train that comes through your town is a scenic sightseeing train, going to a big city is like being dropped on the surface of the moon. It is a different world. It is a different experience. It is a complete different way of life, and no one ever told me that. But I learned. And there I was, penniless and broke and scared. And ultimately, it took me about 5 years to ever move again. And ultimately, I did end up staying in a big city. Not that same big city, but an even bigger one. I did figure it out. Because I had big city dreams. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to experience things. I wanted to be out there in the land of the giants. I didn't want to be a small fish in a small pond. A big fish in a small pond. You know what I mean. I wanted to be a small fish in the ocean. I wanted to be in the land of incredible things. And once I fought my way through and found my place and met some people and got a job, I realized that the incredible things are in the eye of the beholder, truly. Because the flowing river and the singing birds and the nice group of friends and the scenic sightseeing train and the tree forts in the woods and all these beautiful small town things, those are pretty goddamn incredible too. And you know what? It's a story as old as time. The small town guy wants to move to the big city. Once he gets to the big city, he wants to move back to the small town. I think a lot of it has to do with the ideas of freedom associated with these places. You know, when I was young and I was in this small town, I thought, you know, I'm going to get out of this town and I'm going to really experience life. I'm going to experience what's out there. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to find a girlfriend. I'm going to become a rock star. I'm going to meet these other amazing musicians. We're going to start this band and it's going to be like nothing anyone's ever seen. And we're going to be out on the street and we're going to be looking cool. We're going to fucking take over the world. And then once you're out there in the city and it's crowded and you're walking down the street and you're walking too slow and you see people smoking crack and there's needles on the ground and there's people getting robbed and there's crazy movie stars everywhere, there's famous people, there's fucking car accidents, there's air shows where there's fighter jets flying through the sky creating sound waves that make car alarms go off. And you've been doing that for years, and it's getting too loud, and it's too confusing. You start to dream of the freedom of the country, the freedom of the small town, the freedom to let your imagination wander through the woods, where you might not see another person. The freedom of experience that's not to do with other people. The freedom of experience that's to do with serenity and nature. Sitting on a tree stump and watching the sun go down over an untouched field of snow. Making your own fun, having nothing to do. Thus your imagination has to expand and explore. And I don't know if I grew up in the big city, if I would have been the artist that I am today. I don't know if that would have happened. Because where would my imagination have wandered? Through these narrow streets? My imagination standing there waiting at the stoplight, waiting for the light to change, filing off. My imagination has to look around to make sure it's safe. Not in the country. I'm going off on a huge tangent here, but I think the main point is this, you know. If you are in a small town and you want to leave it and have a coming-of-age adventure, that is definitely an incredible thing to do, and you will learn lessons and you will meet people, and it may be a lot harder than you think it is at first. It's not like it is in the movies. And you will be tested. You will be tested. And you will need to have money saved, and you will need to be tough. You will need to be strong. Because once you leave that little town, you are nothing to nobody. And people look at you the same way they would look at a piece of garbage on the street, the same way they would look at a lamppost or a mailbox. But it's worth it. It was worth it for me. But if you don't want to go, that's fine too. This is your life. But thank you so much for watching, Romshinators. I really appreciate it. I hope this rant made sense. The thing is about these rants is that when I rehearse them too much, they actually get worse. I'm trying to rehearse them to the perfect amount. The ones that I over-rehearse don't end up making it to the video. So this one I had the beginning plan, but the end kind of got out of hand. But anyways, let me know what you think down below. I really appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your support, your subscriptions. And thank you. Have a fantastic rest of your day.